There we go. So what we'll be doing tonight is, first of all, we'll have an introduction. I'll say some things about the course, general introductory things about the course. And then we'll get a little bit more specifically into what we're going to be looking at this week. And we'll go into breakout rooms. So breakout rooms will be a feature of the course. So some of the stuff that we'll be exploring with other people. So that'll give us an opportunity to meet some people that we haven't met before. Every night we'll have a 10-minute break in the middle of the class, just to give ourselves a break from looking at the screen, and we can get a cup of tea and do what we need to do. And tonight there'll be meditation after the break. I'll also say a few more things about what we're going to be looking at this evening in terms of transforming work. And then there'll be another breakout room towards the end of the evening tonight, when we'll look at what we're going to be working at this week. So we're going to go away from the evening with some things to practice in the coming week, which we'll then talk about when we come back again next week. So just a one or two little points about Zoom. So probably everyone's well familiar with Zoom at this point. So if the sound is breaking up, if the connection isn't good, what you can do is you can turn your video off, and that improves the sound often and the video that you're receiving. So you can do that if things break up a little bit. If there's like a big problem, so for occasionally there's these Zoom sort of dramas that happen, and if that happens and you can't get back in, check your email. So we'll try and email you if there's some kind of something untoward happens. Otherwise, if you get thrown out, you can just rejoin the Zoom room on the link that was on the email that we sent you. And if you need help with anything with Zoom, you can maybe mention it in your breakout room. You can maybe get some help with it, and or you can email us as well. So just a few words about the course by way of introduction. So some of you would have been on the course at which we just finished, an 8-week course on Tuesdays, which was called Vision and Transformation, which was based around the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path. And on that course, we saw that the Buddhist path consists of, first of all, having some kind of a vision of something that we can grow into. So that's the path of vision. The path of transformation is transforming all the different aspects of our life in accordance with that vision. So we looked at a number of themes over those 8 weeks. Well, first of all, the whole theme of vision itself, what that means, a vision of the truth, and then transforming, first of all, our emotional life, then transforming our communication, transforming our action, transforming our livelihood, transforming our effort, and then transforming through awareness, and then finally meditation. So the fifth limb of the Noble Eightfold Path is all about livelihood. It's all about how we earn a living, and trying to do that in a way that's in line with vision, which is in line with spiritual principles, even an expression of spiritual principles. And on that night, on the 5th week of the Buddha's Noble Eightfold Path course, I remember feeling that there was so much more that could be explored in terms of livelihood. Often I think livelihood kind of gets missed out of. We just feel like, oh, this is just my job. I have to do it this way. I don't have any choice. We can often feel like we've got limited options, and we often feel that work is the one area of our life where we really come up against some huge challenges. And it's a really basic thing, work. It often is the way that we provide ourselves with some of the basic things that we need just to kind of get by as a living being even. So it's a really basic sort of aspect of our life, and it's significant that out of those that the Buddha chose it as one of the 8 limbs, because it does need some awareness brought to it. It does need some understanding brought to it if we're to live a life that's geared towards spiritual transformation. So that's why it's included, and that's why we thought it would be a good idea to explore it in a little bit more depth in this 4-week course. It's worth noting that apart from sleeping, probably for most of us, work is the thing that we do for most of the time that we have. Most of the waking time that we have goes into work. So it's quite a thing to think about. So, when we work, what we're doing will be having an effect on who we are, on our character. It'll be having an effect on the world as well. So it's really important that we bring some awareness to that. There's so much to explore. And what I'd really like for this course is that we do enter into it in a spirit of exploration. So there'd be plenty of opportunity for conversation, for discussion, for questioning and inquiry. And I think this is particularly important with this topic because our work will be different. Some of us will work for money, will be in paid work. Some of us won't be working for money, we'll be doing unpaid work. Some of us might be working in the charity sector or the public sector or the private sector. Some of us will be maybe working physically. Maybe some of us will be working more digitally. There's just so many different kinds of work that we might be involved in. So what we're going to need to do is to take the principles that I'm going to be doing my best to communicate and then applying them in the particular circumstances of our life. And that will, like I say, be different for everybody. So that there will need to be this kind of exploratory kind of approach. It's a little bit more difficult to just sort of take something off the peg that you can go away and practice. So particularly from tomorrow onwards, from next week onwards, there'll be plenty of opportunity to just explore things in groups and even just by ourselves in terms of reflection. So like I said, we will have breakout groups every week, and we're going to see that the breakout rooms are the same every week. So you'll be with the same people. So that'll give you an opportunity just to get to know some new people, and also, just creates a kind of continuity of connection through the course. And the groups will be led by a team leader. So you'll see some of the people on the if you look at your gallery view, you'll see that some people have got team by their name, and they're people with more experience of Buddhist practice who will be facilitating the groups. So there'll be somebody who's got a bit more of a sense of what's going on in the group. Yeah, and the emphasis on the course is on home practice. I say home practice. I mean, in a way, it's work practice. Bearing in mind that probably a lot of us are actually going to be working from home, but a lot of what's going to happen for this course will happen in between these Tuesday nights. So it'll be about hearing about some Buddhist teachings, principles, practices, and then applying them in our lives, and then setting intentions for that, and then reviewing how we got on the following week. So that'll be the way the course rolls. Yeah. So from Tuesday to Tuesday. With that in mind, it might be helpful to get a little journal, a little notebook that you can note things down in, so you can note down what it is that you intend to do. And you could even touch into that each day if you wanted, and maybe write down any reflections that you might have. So it can be handy just to keep it handy. You might have it on your desk and just refer to it. Because one of the hard things about practice, about part of the idea of Buddhist practice is that you take on something to do, to practice, that will bring about some kind of transformation. Now, the really difficult thing is to remember to do that. Often we have all the best intentions and then we just forget because habit sort of takes over. So I'll mention this again at the end of the evening, but it's really good, just to sort of do everything you can to remind yourself to keep doing the things that you intend to do. Now, every night we'll record the session. Yeah, so at present, Stephen's recording this, and what we'll do is we'll post that on YouTube, and we'll send you a link. So there'll be a playlist which will have the videos for each evening, and you can catch up if you miss a class, or you can watch bits again if you want to. So that'll be made available. And also there'll be meditations as part of the video that you can follow again if you want to have another bite of the cherry, so to speak. So every Wednesday, so tomorrow, we'll send you an email which has got a link to the video, a reminder of any kind of reminders about home practice. And there might be other material that we include. We'll also send you an email just to remind you of the link, the Zoom link each week. Now the Zoom link will be the same. So every Tuesday, you can just go onto the same Zoom link. What I do, you might find this helpful, if I'm doing a course or a meeting, I just copy the Zoom link into my Google Calendar, and then I can just click on the link, and it makes it kind of easier. So you don't have to rummage around looking for an email. It's 5 minutes to 7 on a Tuesday. And actually, just while I'm on that, it can be nice if you just join early, and you can turn your camera off and your sound off, and you can just so you know that you've joined, because sometimes it can be a bit nerve-wracking if at the last minute your computer's being a bit slow or something doesn't quite go right. So you can just join and just wait and just turn yourself off, as it were, and you don't have to worry about things not working closer to the time when we start. So some of the other courses we've done on Tuesday nights, and we've had a book, and the course has kind of followed a book. So there's no book for this course. That's in a way because it's a brand new course. So we've never done this course before. So yeah, you might like to take a few notes, but I won't be doing kind of like extensive notes for the course, or there won't be a book to go along with it. So I thought I'd just give you the heads up. And also, because it's a brand new course, I'd be really interested in your feedback. So if there's anything that occurs to you about the way the course is, or anything you'd like to see or not to see, do let me know. You can send me a little email, or there will be a sort of a more formal feedback session on the last evening. But if you've got any comments, do please let me know. And just one or two last sort of general things about the course. Do come along each week, even if you don't feel like it. So quite often, we don't feel like doing things that are good for us. So it's quite good just to make a commitment to coming every week, even if it's not something you feel like doing when the time comes. Yeah, like I say, it's a really important thing, I think, to learn how to do that, just to learn to stay faithful, as it were, to something that you've undertaken to do, even when you don't feel like doing it. That's often when the real transformation happens, when you meet that resistance with perseverance. And at the moment, we're doing all of our events on a donation basis. So we've been doing this for a year now, since March of last year, when we went into lockdown for the first time. We just decided to do everything on a donation basis, and this course is being run in that same way. So yeah, we are a charity. The DBC is a charity. The people who work for the DBC, so there's 5 of us who work for the DBC, the full or part-time, and we all work for support. In other words, we don't work for wages in the usual way. We all work, we're kind of like supported volunteers, really. So we don't, well, maybe I'll say a bit more about that as the course goes on, but so basically what that means is that the money that is given to the DBC is spent really well. We don't spend a lot of money on wages at all. We're able to put the money that we receive into the Dharma activities that we do. So we're just asking people to give a donation to the DBC for the course. Now, often people wonder how much to give. It's a bit like how long's a piece of string. So what we're saying is that we're offering a kind of a suggested donation. So we're saying if you can give €80 for the course, that would be brilliant. That would really help us to keep our work going. But you're welcome to give whatever you're happy to give. So that might be a lot more than that, or it might be a lot less than that. It might be nothing at all. So just the course is free, really. You're just welcome to come and participate in it and benefit from it. And if you want to give something, then that'd be great. Yeah, and we're saying if you need a suggestion, €80 would be what we're suggesting. So that's just a little bit of general stuff about the course. And I'm doing a little bit more talking tonight than I will be on the other nights. The other nights will be a bit more interactive. What I want to do now is just talk a little bit about the content of the course. So the actual things that we're going to be covering in terms of content. And I'm going to put a slide up in a minute. And just to let you know that there's different viewing options for the slides. So when I share my screen, if you want, you can just have the slide, or if you want, you can have the slide, and a little picture next to the slide of me and maybe a few other people on the Zoom call. So you can change that. There's a little button that says View Options at the top of your screen. So I'm just going to share this slide now. So here we go. So yeah, so if you see that at the top, I can't see it because I'm the one who's sharing, but you can change the view at the top of the screen, and like I say, you can have a little person talking, and you can actually make the person bigger and the slide smaller or bigger just by sliding the little the cursor across. So yeah, so the reason that we chose that image, actually, that's obviously somebody who's been working outside and their hands are kind of dirty. And very often when we're working, we come up against some of the more kind of dirty aspects of human existence. Things are a bit messy. Economics is a bit of a messy thing. So when we start earning and spending money, we get involved in an economic system. And there is just, it's difficult to sort of be really all clean and pure. So that's part of the reason for the image of it's kind of things we're going to get a little bit dirty, and in a way that's just part of human life, where things can be a bit messy and a bit complicated and a bit dirty. So that's part of the reason for choosing that image for the course. Anyway, so what we're going to be looking at now, this won't be new to most of you who've got some kind of knowledge of Buddhism. So that the course is going to be following the threefold path. So we're going to be looking at ethics, meditation, and wisdom in relation to work explicitly. So a lot of what you're going to hear will be things that you're familiar with, but the particular kind of approach will be to apply those things to your working life, apply those principles to your working life. And that's what we're going to be looking at in the course. And very often that's the way with the Dharma, that the principles in a way are quite simple, but the application is where the complexity is. The application is where the challenge is. And often we don't make the connection between the principle and what's going on in our life. So that's what this course is all about. It's about making those connections. So just to be a little bit more specific. So ethics is about how we behave in relation to others. And what we're trying to do, as you've probably heard on other courses at the DBC, is that we're trying to move from unskillful behaviour that's expressive of negative mental states, to skillful behaviour which is expressive of positive mental states or skillful mental states, and from skillful mental states to even more skillful mental states. And we're going to be looking at that in terms of practicing the 5 precepts. In terms of meditation, what meditation is about is specifically looking at the mind and transforming our mental states so that we're developing an uninterrupted stream of skillful mental states. So again, there's this movement here of skillful or unskillful to even more skillful. And in particular on this course, we're going to be looking at a teaching called the 4 right efforts. So those of you who did the Noble Eightfold Path course will recognize the 4 right efforts. They're the content of the 6th limb of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is perfect effort. And then with wisdom, what we're going to be looking at, which may be new actually to some of you, is it's about developing a perspective. In particular, developing a way of thinking about what's going on that helps us approach it in a more creative way. So we come to our life, we come to what happens in our life with all kinds of views and attitudes. So what we're doing when we're looking at wisdom, this 3rd aspect of the path is looking at how we can approach things, think about things in a way that's more helpful because it's more true. So we'll be taking 2 different approaches to developing wisdom. One is by looking at what are known as the 3 characteristics of conditioned existence. So that is seeing that conditioned existence, the world we live in, is characterized by impermanence, it's characterized by unsatisfactoriness, and it's characterized by insubstantiality. So we'll look at how that applies to what goes on in our work. in particular. And it can really be quite liberating to just try and see a little bit more clearly what's going on with this kind of perspective, with this kind of way of looking at things. When we can see things more clearly, we're more able to be creative. We're more able to respond in a way that's more adequate to the situation that we find ourselves in. So that's one kind of approach that we're going to be taking, one wisdom approach. And the other wisdom approach that we're going to be taking is looking at what is known as the three fetters. So the fetters of habit, so breaking the fetter of habit, the fetter of vagueness or doubt, so breaking that fetter of vagueness, and breaking the fetter of superficiality or just going through the motions. So they're going to be three sort of forces, as it were, that we're going to be trying to work against in this course. So I'll dip into that over the course of the next 4 weeks. So it's not going to be nice and neat because we've got 4 weeks, we've got 3 different aspects. It's going to be a little bit mixed up, but hopefully one thing will flow into the next. That's the plan. So what I want to do now is just do a little bit of reflection. And this is just going to be asking you some questions about your work, just to get you thinking. Now, hopefully you've got something that you can write on. So I said in the email just before that I sent out, or before the course, just to bring a bit of paper. You might, if you don't have a piece of paper, you could just write, maybe on your computer, you could just open a Word document or something and just make a few notes. But we are just going to do just a little, I'm just going to ask you a few questions and just give you a little bit of time just to think about the responses to those questions. And then we'll go into breakout rooms and just share what we discovered, what we uncovered. So I'm going to stop that share now. There we go. So yeah, so the first question is, why do you work? So it's a really simple question, obviously. But what I invite you to do is just don't try and be clever or anything. Just answer the question as sort of simply and basically as possible. So why do you work? I'm assuming that you work. So why do you do it? What's the reason for it? So I'll just the more fundamental, the more basic, the better, really. But you can write anything that comes to mind. So why do you work? And I'll just give you a couple of minutes just to note down a few things. And what I'd suggest you do is don't think about it too much. Just write down what comes into your mind. Yeah. So just a couple of minutes on that question. Why do you work? So it looks like people are still writing. So yeah, I'll just give you another 30 seconds. Okay, so the next question is, what would you like your work to be? Or how would you like your work to be, rather? Sorry, how would you like your work to be? So there might be something that you particularly, I don't know, you'd like to bring into your work to make it more engaging or more satisfying or more enjoyable or something like that. So there's about another half a minute on that question. And then the next question is, what do you find challenging about your work? I'll just put those questions in the chat. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into breakout groups. So this will happen this week. This will happen automatically. So you'll just be put into a group, and those will be the people that you'll be with for the next 4 weeks. And in your group, you'll notice that there's a team leader. There might be two actually, and there'll be a particular name. So like Tony's a team leader, and he, I think, is a Lily White. Yeah, so that'll just help you. Because what you'll need to do is you'll need to remember which group you're in. Because next week you'll have to choose your own group. Yeah, you'll have to choose the group that you're in this week, and you'll have to do that yourself. It just makes the behind the scenes work a lot more easy for the technical support. So it's just something that you need to remember yourself. So you need to remember the particular item, the team leader's name, if you like, or the particular item next to their name. If that's not clear, they'll explain it to you when we get into the groups. And yeah, the idea for the group is just basically to share what you've just discovered. You also, I think, what would be nice is just to introduce yourself a little bit. You might like to say your name, say a little bit, just a bit about yourself. We'll have 20 minutes, and there'll be about 6 of us, so you won't have a long time to speak. And then just actually, if you say what work you do, what is it that you do? Again, it might be paid work, or it might be unpaid work. You might not be working for a living at the moment, and that's fine. Just whatever feels relevant. And then just those 3 questions: what work do you do? How would you like your work to be, and what is challenging about your work? And you might have to just say the most important points that you've uncovered from your jottings from just now. So what I'll do is I'll put those. I'll put that in the chat box so you can refer to that in your groups. And like I said, we'll be in there for about 20 minutes. And yeah, I think that is it. So Stephen, if you can roll the groups, that would be brilliant. Okay, so we'll make a start. It's 10 past. So yeah, it was. I don't know about you, but what was interesting in our group was just how much work is about. It's not just about earning a living. It's about a lot of things. It's about having a sense of purpose. It's about connections with others. It's about doing something meaningful. So many different things. People talked about making a contribution to society. Something about identity, about who we feel that we are. There was so much different stuff that people talked about. So I think that's one of the things that why it's so important if we want to transform ourselves, if we want to have a life of transformation, that we bring some attention to work, because it is so bound up with so much of our energy as a human being. And yeah, so that's. I was hoping to have a bit of time to hear from different people about what was talked about, but we haven't. We won't have time for that. But hopefully, even just in the little group that I was in, and the 3 people that I was with, just hearing from everybody just really help broaden the whole area out, and just really indicate that it is an important area to bring some awareness to if we want to live a genuinely creative life. So what I want to talk about now briefly is ethics. So I mentioned that we're going to cover these 3 main kind of topics on the course of applying ethics, applying meditation, and applying wisdom to our work. And what I want to talk about here is ethics to begin with. So ethics is about human behavior, and its starting point in Buddhism in particular is recognizing that what we do has an effect in the world. It has an effect on other people, and what we do has an effect on our character. From a Buddhist perspective, who we are is the sum total of what we do, what we say, and what we think. So we're the sum total of our actions. So for that reason, how we do what we do, how we say what we say, and how we think what we think is really, really crucially important if there's going to be any kind of genuine transformation. And as I said earlier, the way we talk about ethics in Buddhism is very much about trying to become more skillful. So this word skillful is used instead of kind of the language of good and bad, which tends to be a little bit more, or tends to lend itself to moral absolutes. The word skillful in relation to ethics lends itself to an idea of training. It's like developing a skill. Yeah. So, and it suggests as well a sense of development or a sense of growth. One of the things actually that somebody said in my group about work was that one of the things that they felt that why they needed to work was to have a sense that they were learning, the sense of continuing to learn. So this is very much the idea of Buddhist ethics, is that we're learning all the time. We're refining our understanding about what it means to act skillfully. Now, when I talk about developing a skill, it's not so much a particular skill like, I don't know, wood turning, or I don't know, like writing an email, or a particular skill that we might have in our work. Whether that's, I don't know, whether we're a nurse or a doctor or a tradesman of some kind. It's not a skill in that sense. It's a lot more about the way that we do what we do, not what we do. It's the way that we do a particular task, but particularly the quality of awareness that we bring to it, and the quality of sensitivity to others, particularly. And you notice that, it's a very everyday example, but the example I thought is, if somebody serves you in a cafe, and they can do the same kind of function. Their basic function in that is to, from a practical point of view, is to write down what you want to eat and drink, go away and bring it back to you, and then ask you to pay for it. That's their kind of function. But the way that is done makes a huge difference in terms of your experience of eating and drinking in that particular establishment. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at the way things are done. And that very often that's what determines, something as being skillful or unskillful, is the way that it's done. I mean, some things, of course, are kind of by their very nature unskillful. They're in the sense that they're harmful towards others, for example. But often what we're doing, what we're involved with, might be relatively neutral. Or we might even be doing something that is beneficial to others, but doing it in a way which is informed by an unskillful mental state. So we might do it with a sense of resentment, for example, even though we might be offering somebody something that is helping them on the sort of practical everyday level. So skillful behavior is often talked about in the Buddhist tradition in terms of putting certain ethical principles into practice. So you find lists of different ethical principles, or training principles, they're sometimes called, or precepts. So the most common one that you'll probably be familiar with if you've been hanging around the Buddhist community at all is the 5 precepts. So I'm just going to briefly say something about each of them, and then we're going to focus on the first one this evening. So the first principle is the principle of metta. So this is recognizing that other people are real. Yeah, so recognizing that other people have experience in the way that we have experience, and actually living from that awareness, living from that knowledge, living from that sense of solidarity. So negatively, that means abstaining from doing things which exploit or harm or hurt other people. The next principle is the principle of generosity. So this is about an attitude, sort of an outward movingness of wanting to do things which benefit other people, give people what they need at all levels. And the other side of that is undertaking to abstain from taking the not given, as we say. So don't take things that haven't been freely given to us. This gets very interesting in relation to work, because very often there's an arrangement of a contract of exchange involved. Now, we won't get into that tonight. That might be something that comes up in subsequent weeks. It's a big area. In a way, the question of the economics or the economics of generosity, or an economics based on generosity. Anyway, that's a topic for another night. The third principle is the principle of contentment. So that's trying to develop a sense of contentment and satisfaction. gratification even in what we presently have, rather than wanting to add something onto what we presently have. And again, it's not difficult to see the relationship with work. Work can so often, dissatisfaction with work can lead to a sense of a lack of contentment in our lives. Which is not to say that we shouldn't change our work if that's what's needed, but it's just something that often comes into play. Negatively, the third precept is about abstaining from sexual misconduct, which means basically an extension of the first precept into the whole arena of sexual relations. The fourth precept is a principle of truthfulness. So it's actually saying what is true. And abstaining from saying what is untrue. Now, again, when you get into the economic sphere, this becomes quite interesting, because often it's not in our economic interests to say something that's true. So again, it's a bit of a complex area. I'm not going to get into that tonight, maybe on a subsequent evening, but I just wanted to sort of highlight that. And the fifth precept is the principle of awareness, or actively trying to cultivate awareness by being more mindful, being more conscious about what it is that we're doing, being more deliberate about what it is that we're doing, and trying to do what we're doing with as much of ourselves as possible. So that's very briefly what the 5 precepts are. Like I said, what I want to do is focus on the first one. In a way, the first one is the most important. A lot of the other ones are, in a way, expressions of the first precept. So if our heart's in the right place, so to speak, we'll naturally act ethically. So it's really important that we start with actually trying to do something about making sure our heart's in the right place. So what does that mean? What does it mean to have your heart in the right place? Really what that means is trying to live from this principle of metta. Sometimes we talk about it as friendliness. Sometimes we describe it as love and kindness. Sometimes it's talked about as solidarity of our life with the life of another. Really, like I said earlier, what it's about is realizing that other people are real. It's quite a simple idea, really, but that other people are actually real. They actually exist. They're not just objects from our perspective. They exist from their side. They have experience. Very often we act with an awareness that somebody is there, but we don't act with an awareness that that person actually has experience. And one of the things I was thinking about when I was preparing this is the fact that work is always relational. It's maybe something we don't kind of think about because it's so obvious, but I was trying to think of work that isn't relational, but I couldn't think of an example of a kind of work which wasn't relational at all. So usually work involves doing something for somebody or with somebody. It involves, working for somebody, or it involves having somebody work for you. There's always a relational element in our work. And that's often why work is so challenging, because our will collides with the will of another. Yeah, so a lot of the challenges that we encounter is through this collision, as it were, of our will with other people's will. And a lot of the stress that we experience in our life comes from that kind of conflict, that kind of tension. People often talk about mindfulness as being an important way of working with stress, and I think it is. But I think without metta, you'll miss a trick in terms of working with stress, because a lot of our stress, maybe the most acute experiences of stress that I've encountered in my life, at least, have been because of conflict, have been because I'm not getting along with somebody, and it's causing all kinds of difficulty. Now, of course, there'll always be conflict, I think, in human experience. The question is how we respond to it. Can we respond to it creatively, with patience, or do we react to it with aversion, anger, and resentment? So metta is a really, really crucial quality, and not in our relations, and particularly because, as course is about work and our relationship with the people that we encounter through our work. So I mean that in the broadest way. I don't mean just, the people that our colleagues, but I mean, that clients, customers, gig attendees, just looking around the room there, service users. You'll have to kind of translate that to your own working environment. If someone's got a kind of work, if someone's doing work which isn't relational, I'd be really interested to hear about it. But generally, it's going to be relational. So it seems really important to just start with that fact and recognize that when we work, we're working with and for, and maybe in collaboration with others. And what work means to us, that it'll also mean that to them. That's part of the reason for doing that exercise, is just to highlight all the different things that are riding on work. A sense of security, a sense of providing for our family, a sense of value, being valued for what we produce. There's so much riding on it, and it's the same for everybody. So if we're able to remember that when we encounter people in our working life, those relationships are much more likely, I would say, to be positive relationships and to be creative relationships. It's not to say that conflict won't arise, tension won't arise, and difficulty won't arise. It will, but when it does, we'll be much more equipped to respond to it. So what I wanted to do now is actually just do some Metta Bhavana. So the good news about Metta is it is actually a quality that you can develop. It's not that you've got a fixed quantity of it. You can actually develop the capacity for Metta, and this practice, the Metta Bhavana, which you'll all know is a way of doing that. So what I wanted to do is actually start by doing the Metta Bhavana and actually doing it for people that you encounter in your work. Yeah, so for the different stages, you pick somebody, a friend. Maybe if you might not have a friend who you work with. Maybe pick someone that you like. If there's no one that you like, maybe pick someone who's least annoying. Yeah. Yeah, and then pick somebody who's neutral. Probably there'll be somebody that you encounter that you don't have a strong feeling for either way. And then pick someone that you find difficult. You've probably got one of those. And then what we'll do is we'll just bring to mind just people that you work with, just sort of have them, a sense of them being around you, and then we'll expand for a short while. So it won't be a long practice. Probably do it for about 25 minutes. So what I'd invite you to do is just set yourselves up for meditation, and we'll explore it. So just settling into a meditation posture that feels comfortable. And just remembering that we're not going to do something difficult. In a way, metta is a natural quality. And just by bringing our attention to certain aspects of our experience in a particular way, we can allow it to develop, to gather momentum, to gather strength. And we can begin by just being aware of what's going on. Letting go of the chats that we've been having. And tuning into our immediate experience. First of all, just noticing where we are, a sense of place, a sense of our body being somewhere. And then noticing the feelings, the sensations from within the body. So there's no wrong answer, as it were. So whatever is happening is where we start from. So what is happening? What's happening in the face in terms of the muscles and the skin? How are we holding our head? How is it emerging from our shoulders? And what about our shoulders? How do they feel? And our belly? And our heart? What's going on in the center of our heart? And beginning by recalling why it is that we work, and particularly trying to connect with those positive aspects of how we work to benefit ourselves. Maybe in some very fundamental ways of just having a way of paying for food, for accommodation, paying for the things we like to do, maybe paying for people that we're responsible for looking after. There's an element of work which can be connected with survival, that is sort of a basic drive. Maybe you can devise a phrase which expresses some of those deeper values and motivations. So you might say something like, may I be secure, or may I be fulfilled, or just whatever feels appropriate. So developing metta for yourself. And recognize that it's natural for a lot to be riding on work, for it to be important to you. And then bring to mind a friend, or maybe a colleague, someone that you work with, someone that you like maybe, who's generally pleasant. And just spend a bit of time bringing them to mind, their particular character, bringing them to mind so that you have a sense of what makes them that person and not somebody else. And for them too, work is a crucial part of their life. It's what they spend a large part of their waking life engaged in. And a lot rides on it in a way that a lot rides on our working life. So it's almost like you're trying to see it from their side, see their engagement, their working life, what that means from their point of view. That it's really important to them in the same way that it's really important to us. A lot depends on it for them. And you might apply the phrase that you devised to them as well. You could even just say, may you be happy. And then just letting that person move into the background and just sitting with yourself as you are, just checking that you're relaxed. Your face is relaxed and your shoulders. There's no undue strain or force. And then bringing somebody from your working life who's neutral, who you neither like nor dislike. Bringing that person to mind as vividly as you can. Don't spend a lot of time deciding. It might be that you find someone who's good enough. You might like them a little bit or dislike them a little bit. That's okay. But make sure you choose a particular individual. And for them also, there's a lot riding on their working life. And we can use a phrase of our own devising, or we can say, may you be happy. Or we can just include them in an attitude, a natural attitude of metta. And letting that person move into the background, and again, just relaxing into yourself. And then bring to mind someone who you work with in some way: employee, employer, client, customer, supplier, debtor's ledger, that you find difficult. And again, they want, for their own security, well-being, livelihood, etc., through their work, and that drive we have also, our friend does, the neutral person does. So we just connect with that basic human desire that we share and wish them well. And including in your metta yourself, your friend or the person you like, the neutral person, the difficult person, and each wish deeply for their own well-being. And work is part of that. And then having a sense of the other people that you work with or that you encounter through your work. So just letting people come to mind and trying to include them in that same kind of understanding and attitude. We're all trying to get by. We're all trying to make something of ourselves, etc. For some, work will be fulfilling. For others, it might be a drag. For some, it might be very difficult indeed. For some, it might be a delight. But for almost everybody, it's a fact of life in some way. So now just let go of trying to think of particular individuals and just have a sense of metta as a quality of mind that's radiating outwards. So just relax into that. And then just completely let go of trying to do this thing or that thing and just sit, letting go into what's presently arising, whatever that is. And then before we finish the meditation, a question. So is there anything that we've uncovered or talked about? Anything from the Metta Bhavana? Anything that you can bring into your working life from what we've looked at? So we're just looking for one thing to practice. Something that will bring one of those ethical principles of metta, generosity, contentment, truthfulness, or awareness into our working life. It doesn't have to be something grand. It might be something very, very basic, very simple. And don't worry if nothing comes to mind immediately. Okay, so what's going to happen now? We're coming to the end. So you've just like to bring the meditation to a close. And we're just going to go into random groups of two. And it's just an opportunity. We just have 3 minutes just to tell the other person what you intend to do this week. If you can't think of anything right now, don't worry too much. But just having an opportunity to tell the other person what you intend to bring into your working week this week. So if you set that going now, Stephen, we'll just have 3 minutes, so just 1.5 minutes each. Everybody, is it?
Yeah.
It's 40. That's wonderful. So sorry, I sprung that on Stephen there at the end there. So any technical hitches are my fault. Anyway, so hopefully you've got something to go away and think about and practice. What I've really appreciated about tonight is just actually recognizing that work is so much part of what we do. We just sort of forget about it. It's like we don't see the wood through the trees. So part of what this is about, this course, is just bringing some awareness to work, what it is, what it means, as well as what we're doing and what other people are doing. So hopefully you've found that stimulating. What we'll do next week is we'll further our exploration. We'll particularly look at awareness, the 5th precept, next week, and how we can work with that in our working lives. So yeah, but other than that, if you've got any questions, I'll be kicking around for about 15 minutes after we finish. But other than that, we'll send you an email tomorrow with the link to the video if you want to follow anything up. And yeah, just invite you to just explore the whole area of bringing some awareness to our working lives over the coming week. And I'll see you again on Tuesday. So that's it. So yeah, see you again next week.